This is Worldwide News. You are watching News Story.
Hundreds of firefighters are continuing to tackle wildfires across Europe and the Mediterranean, which have forced thousands of people to be evacuated. The Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis says Greece needs to take more steps to combat the effects of climate change. Bethany Bell is in Rhodes. The situation here weather-wise is a bit cooler than it's been over recent days, but the wind is up and there are concerns that could send smoldering embers flying through the air and spark new blazes. There's also concern about a situation in mainland Greece yesterday where a fire reached an ammunition depot belonging to the Greek Air Force and there were explosions there. Now the authorities say the situation is currently under control. They're trying to put coolant on that area, but there is the possibility that some of these explosives could have been sent over a larger distance and they could still be active. So we're told that the situation there is still critical. In other news, there is a funeral today for one of the two pilots who was killed earlier this week in Avia when his plane crashed. The president of Greece is going to be at that funeral. People are very much concerned that new fires could break out. Several areas of Greece are on high alert, including Attica around Athens, the Peloponnese, and the island of Crete. Bethany, there's been discussions by the Greek Prime Minister. He's brought up the issue of climate change and the need to spend more time preparing to mitigate the effects of climate change. What do you think the government is planning to do? Well, we're going to hear from the climate crisis minister this morning, where we hope to hear some more details about that. But Mr. Mitsotakis was saying that as well as tackling the climate crisis, it's also important for Greece to look into its firefighting measures and its fire protection measures. Doing more to clean up the forest to make sure that there's not combustible material that could be set alight, but for everybody. Here in Greece they realize the severity of this situation and how on an island here like Rhodes it's impacting tourism, which is its economic lifeline. Okay. Bethany, thank you for speaking to us. Bethany Bell in Rhodes. Well, let's cross now to southern Italy and our correspondent Sofia Battiza. Sofia, tell us what you've been hearing where you are. Well, Celia, temperatures here in southern Italy have dropped significantly in the last few days, but firefighters here are still hard at work. They've had to battle more than 3,000 fires in the last few days. And you can see the aftermath of one of those fires. That entire valley used to be green, but now all you look is burnt out trees and charred terrain, and I think that really gives you an idea of the scale of the damage here in Calabria. Now many of these fires have been blamed on arsonists. We spoke to some experts here who told us that up to 60% of the wildfires we've been seeing here in Italy have been started by people. So of course the question is, why would anybody want to start a deadly fire? Well, it's lots of reasons. It could be by accident, it could be to settle a local dispute, especially here in the countryside. It could be some people are even blaming firefighters themselves, saying that they start some of these fires so that they can get more funding. But what a lot of people here have told us is that mostly it's pyromaniacs who want to create chaos. Well, chaos indeed. I mean, looking at the scene behind you, Sofia, Italy is so dependent on the tourist trade. Can you tell us now that those involved in the tourist industry are sort of left to look at the ashes? Really, how are they going to recalibrate now? Well, that's a really good point. You know, the wildfires that we've seen in the last few days and this consecutive heat waves have hit several countries in southern Italy. You know, there's several countries in southern Europe: Italy, Greece, Spain, Portugal, and those countries heavily rely on tourism. Greece, for example, 1/4 of its GDP comes from tourists, so this is really problematic. What we are seeing here, you know, speaking to people, is that, you know, there's an understanding that these high temperatures could be the new normal. We could be seeing something very similar next summer, for example. spoke to a doctor in Palermo in Sicily who told us that some of her patients have died, and it's not just because of the heat, but she said that the heat was definitely a contributing factor. She told us that she's very worried because she feels that it will be the people who are most at risk, elderly people or young children, who will pay the price of the heat waves that we are seeing. And that's because for people who are a little bit older, or for people who have existing conditions, being in these sorts of temperatures can have devastating consequences. And it's not so much the people that are getting into hospital now is not so much people who go in the sun when it's at its hottest, which is the afternoon, but it's mainly because now Italians have been exposed to these temperatures for days and weeks, and so that definitely takes a toll on people's health. Okay, Sophia, thank you for taking us through that. Sophia Battista speaking to us from southern Italy, and of course we've also had Bethany Bell speaking from the island of Rhodes in Greece. Thank you to both of you.
Subscribe and stay tuned on Worldwide News Channel.